Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the 2025 Autumn Speaker Series hosted here at the Cottage at Litchfield Hills. Today we are navigating the sustainable plan. And to my beautiful left over here, we have a wonderful crowd behind the camera, but we can't put them on. We just are focusing today on Attorney Haley Allaire on our left and Charlotte Audette to the right from Allaire Elder Law Firm in Bristol. Doing good. All right, ladies, so today we're going to be discussing the sustainable plan, and we have a beautiful crowd joining us today in our country kitchen down here at the cottage, and we'll just move forward in a conversation.
Perfect.
All right, thanks.
So we want to start by just talking about some of the physical indicators that might lead you to believe it's really go time for planning. We always love advanced planning. More options are available if you do so. But these are the signs that it's really time to start looking at things, and they may be earlier than you would have anticipated. Once we go through that, we'll talk about various documents, which are kind of the building blocks you may need in order to accomplish what you're trying to accomplish, even if you personally cannot take the steps necessary at the times necessary. And then we'll, of course, go through what does it look like when it's go time? How do we protect what we've worked so hard to gain? How do we protect our loved ones? What kind of actions might actually be needed depending on the situation, and of course your wishes. So Charlotte is a care coordinator. She's been with the firm about 25 years now. She really knows the care game, and we have a couple of them, but point being, she's going to talk about the physical indicators that not only is it time to really start focusing on the situation at hand, but it's possible various programs can come in to help start supporting you. So Charlotte, what are those?
We call them activities of daily living. Bathing, dressing, toileting, transferring, and feeding. Now what do those things mean? Bathing. Do you need someone to help set up before you take a shower? Do you need to have somebody in the house when you're taking a shower? Because you could fall. Do you need someone to help turn the water on so that it's the right temperature? Do you know soap, shampoo? Do you know how to use those things? Or are you not even taking a shower? Are you going in the bathroom and turning the water on and pretending you're taking a shower? Or are you sponge bathing? Or have you fallen in the bathroom? Are there grab bars? So that's bathing. Dressing. Do you need someone to help you with things on the top, like shirts, buttons, zippers? Do you need someone to help pull up your pants? Do you need help with socks? Shoes. Are you just wearing slides? Are you wearing just flip-flops all the time? Are you wearing your slippers all the time? Why aren't you wearing shoes? Can you not get your feet into them? Putting shoes and socks on is a problem for many people. Balancing, just to put your socks on can be a challenge. So that's dressing. Toileting. Toileting, do you need to wear Depends? Do you wear pads? Do you have leakage? That happens to a lot of us, not just when you're laughing, but do you not have the ability to get to the bathroom on time? Do you need personal help with cleaning? A lot of times we have clients that buy the commodes that can wash them in the front and dry them. Those are great, but my daughter's actually getting one, which I thought was kind of cool. Like, okay, I know, like, it's a convenience. So bathing, dressing, toileting, transferring. Transferring is a tough one as well. Do you need help standing? Can you stand and use the sides of your arms to get out of the chair? Can you get on and off a toilet? Can you get in and out of bed? Are you just sleeping in the chair all the time? Is it comfortable, or is it because you can't get in and out of bed? In and out of bed requires a lot of core strength. And transferring, are you walking holding the walls? So that's can you get in and out of a car is a tough one. People don't go to the doctors because they can't get in and out of the car. So that's transferring. Bathing, dressing, toileting, transferring, and feeding. It's not preparing your own meals. It's putting the food that's in front of you into your mouth. It's drinking. Do you need help cutting your food? That could be a support for feeding. Do you have a hard time with a fork just getting the food on the fork, or do you have to eat everything with your hands? So that's what the state looks at. Those are your 5 activities of daily living. You have to have need support But those are the things that when you're looking at your family members now through the holidays and meeting with them and celebrating, looking at those things. Are they changing their clothes? A lot of times people wear the same clothes every day. It's because they can't change their clothes.
Now, choice and decision, these are different things. So whether they're choosing, whether they can't decide. So you're discussing physical indicators,
Yes.
and it's an inability to accomplish the entire task every single time. But what about the mental component to that?
You need, you prompting. If you need someone to tell you to take a shower, if you need someone to tell you to change your clothes, to tell you to go to the bathroom, let's walk over here, let's do this. Prompting is important, and it's also support, holding them with your arms. That support, that also counts as needing that assistance.
Now, most programs out there, most things that can assist you, are going to look at those 5 indicators: bathing, dressing, toileting, transferring, and eating. But it's not just the physical component. It's, do you remember to do it, or do you need to be reminded? So we very often are in a situation where a spouse is reminding the person, go shower, you haven't done it yet. Here's your food, don't forget, your food's in front of you, don't get distracted. But these little things that the spouse can accomplish without much trouble could indicate care is available to you. If you take other steps necessary to sew up the financial piece of it, care may be available. So it's actually a much lower level of indication than most people realize. And sometimes that's really useful, because even if you do not want care in the home yet, the ability to get it, the ability to trigger the timeline it takes to get it, is really useful, so that you're doing your planning at a time you're not in a crisis. And you're able to do the work at a slow, leisurely pace to a degree, hoping nothing changes dramatically with a fall or a stroke, and then sort of ease into the care that you're really looking for when you truly are ready for it.
Get you used to having somebody helping you as well, and it gives you, your family, peace of mind that you're safe. It's hard to ask for help. It's hard to accept help. We all want to be independent. We all want to be in control. We all want to have our own things done at our own time. But sometimes there's a need, because of safety, to start just to keep you on that same path, so you're not sinking. I always tell everybody, you're in a boat. You're in the middle of a storm now. We really need to get you onto the shore. Or you're in a boat. You got an engine, but there's no gas in it. But there's not a hole in the boat, and you're not sinking. We don't want to be at that level. So it is good to try to come in advance.
Right.
But most people don't. They come when they're in a storm.
Right, and they think they have to wait until everything's really difficult, all of the money's gone. And the funny thing is, it does take gas in the boat, time on the clock, to get to where you're trying to get. So for example, if you're lucky enough to have a long-term care insurance policy, which is not appropriate for everybody, but if you have it, it does take time to affect that policy. Most of them have what's called an elimination period, meaning the moment you qualify to actually start using it, you have a 30, 60, 90, or even 100-day elimination period where they agree you qualify, but they're going to wait to see if this is actually a long-term need before they start paying for anything. If we're talking about the Medicaid program, which pays for caregivers, either in the home or outside of it, well, that takes time. Typically 3 to 6 months to do the application fully, often more than a year, because your family doesn't have time to devote to the project or has no idea where to find the things they need to find to do the project. And we'll get into that. But bottom line, it's not instantaneous, and it's usually not retroactive. So you need time to do the project, and the less physical need you have, the less danger your loved one is in when you're doing it.
Can I just say, we always start our interviews, our consultations with where the person is now, how old they are, and what are their health issues, what are their diagnoses, because that's what drives the bus. Not their money, not their plan, but their health. Health is the most important thing, and having them be safe, and I say keeping the family sane. That's our goal, safe and sane. And the kids all laugh, because what I can say, we're already beyond that. But that's the goal here.
All right, so with that said, we're going to jump into the building blocks, the legal tools that I like to have created as early as possible. I mean, that could literally be 18 years old, although usually it's not. But the things we like to have in place. Number one, a really good power of attorney. Number one, the last will is nice, but it is not my first concern. Power of attorney is a legal document that says who is allowed to help manage your finances. So this means whatever you want it to mean. Maybe they can only sign a check to pay your bills. Maybe they can sell your house. Maybe they can trade your stock, buy you a car with your money, file your taxes. Maybe they could even make a trust for you or give gifts on your behalf. But the point is, you control what authorities they have. If no one under the sun has that legal document, no one by default has those legal tools. I don't care if you're married. If it's a joint account, they can access it only because they are an owner. They cannot sign for you, not by default. So you either have a power of attorney, or if you need one, you end up getting conserved. Conservatorship has its place in this world. If we have no other way to help this person, we need to go to a probate court, show that you do not have legal ability to manage your own affairs, remove your own legal authority to do so, and give it to someone else that the court selects, which may be a loved one. The problem is their power is now monitored, which sounds good, but if it's your spouse, they're gonna have to be proven to the court what they're doing all the time, monitored, and limited. So for example, if they need to move you to a facility, if they want to transfer your half of a house to your spouse, they need legal permission to do these things you probably would have wanted. Now I grant, there are things that they may be asking permission to do that you would not have wanted, and it is nice that someone is checking out. I grant that. But the point is, this limits our ability to do things. We recently had a case where the family had no choice but to get a conservatorship. They didn't have legal authority, the parents were not willing to grant it. We were not able to save anything for this family because the court was not able to give us permission to do so. The state of Connecticut is not going to give you legal authority to make them pay for things. Fair enough. So by not allowing the people you trust most to help, you are limiting their ability to protect you. Now, this sounds like I'm saying the kids didn't get an inheritance, and that's true. The point is we weren't able to move the money to a different place so that we could use it strategically to pay for things that we could not otherwise get a program to pay for. The byproduct of what we do is inheritance, not the goal. So the problem is we couldn't keep them out of a nursing home. We couldn't pay their rent. So avoiding a conservatorship is nice if you have people you can trust. So bottom line, power of attorney. What powers you give them is something you discuss with your attorney. But if you already have one, I very strongly encourage you to take a look at it. Its age is not necessarily the issue, although I like to have ones that are less than 10 years old if we can get them. So it's not the age so much as the powers inside of it. If you see the words short form at the top, I know our powers are limited to basically money management and bill pay. I can't make a trust, I can't make gifts, I can't delegate the power to a grandchild who's now more appropriate because your child has gotten early dementia. We've seen these things. So take a look. I'm not saying short form is not a good one, but make sure it's what you intended it to be. Now, beyond power of attorney, oh, and by the way, I should say on all these documents, you can have multiple representatives at the same time, and you can choose whether they are tied jointly together so that all signatures must appear or nothing can happen, or whether they are separated severally, meaning any one of the signatures can get a job done. If you can trust them to work together and come together for big decisions, I prefer severally. Otherwise, your kid in California is going to have a difficult time helping your kid in Connecticut.
When I describe a power of attorney, I describe it as you putting your arms around the people that you're giving power of attorney to. You aren't losing the power, you're spreading the power to two people that you trust. You still have the power, right, and authority to take action on your own assets. So power of attorney isn't giving power away, it's helping other people to give them the power to help you.
Absolutely. Now, beyond power of attorney, we usually have a living will or designation of the healthcare representative. These historically and in other states are combined documents or separate. I like them combined, frankly, because people tend to lose one or the other or think they're the same thing and they're not. But it's basically a list of who's in charge of the decision and what are the limits on their decision-making power for medical. So I usually like to have one person at a time in this document because frankly, some people don't have the stomach for what needs to be decided. And if we're deciding whether to try a surgery or a medicine, do we really need a committee vote? Do we trust our loved ones to discuss, but do we pick a leader for clarity's sake? So I usually prefer that. But it's a personal decision. When it comes to what decisions can be made, this usually breaks out into two separate things. Decisions that do not involve life support and decisions that do. For decisions that do not involve life support, most people would say anything goes, whatever my representative thinks is appropriate. So any surgery, any medicine, any blood transfusion, I trust them to make a good choice for me. Some people do have hard limits. For example, a Jehovah's Witness would say no blood transfusions, period. No. And that's fine, but you need to define whatever this thing is. Now, when it comes to life support, most people would say, I'm willing to be on it if it's temporary, if you think you are fixing something. So let doctors follow their protocols, let them try to revive me and fix me, but once that's all run out, well, if I appear to be permanently vegetative or terminal, meaning my body could never support itself without a machine again, let nature take its course. Give me pain medicine, but let's see what happens at that point. And just from a personal standpoint, as Charlotte well knows, I have seen this play out. My grandmother was in a comatose situation at one point in her mid-70s. We had no idea why. She had just come back from Christmas visiting my cousins and in California. And she was found on her kitchen floor by her best friend, Gloria. Now, but for their lunch date that day, well, the worst probably would have happened. But she got to the hospital, she was put on everything, from my standpoint as a middle schooler, everything. And we didn't know what was going on. But they pumped her full of antibiotics, they started all the protocols they knew to start. The protocols began to run out. And the last one that had one extra day on its calendar was the infectious diseases protocol. Turns out it was the antibiotics that were the cure, because she was actually able to squeeze my dad's hand that morning when he was checking in because he knew he might have to make a choice. So we got a really good result in my family. She had an extra good almost 7 years after that. So we got really lucky. You can't know that that's how it's going to go. But from my standpoint, those protocols, they're in place based on years of medical experience in a lot of different situations. So it is individual to everybody, but I think those things really stand the test that they're going through. Personal opinion. Anything to
No, I
add?
agree. Your father, they asked him on the 8th day, what do you want to do? And he said, well, what is the protocol? And they said 10 days. And he said, well then, because she can't communicate, he has the power to talk for her. And he said, then let's go the 2 days. And it worked.
Yep.
I remember that.
So we got lucky.
Yep.
Now, most people, when they're looking at this document, the living will, they will tell me, I don't want to be on the machines, right? And what they're talking about is a DNR, a do not resuscitate order. That is like an extra layer on top of the living will. What it says is, don't even try. Just keep me comfortable, but I don't want to be on machines from the get-go because my quality of life is not worth whatever I'd have to go through to get back to it. In my grandmother's case, she was still bowling, socializing. It was worthwhile to go through what we had. So she did not have a DNR. But for my other grandma, late in life, well, we did have a DNR because it wouldn't have been worth whatever they would have had to do to her to go back to where she was, right? Awake an hour or two a day, having a coffee and not much else. I mean, it was a different situation. So anyway, my 2 cents on living wills. Now, I also like to issue a blanket HIPAA, which is just a permission policy of who's allowed to talk to my medical providers and get my medical records. I like to issue that to usually the whole nuclear family, the spouse and the children, so that they don't have to go through somebody to get your information and ask how you are. They can talk directly to your providers. That's a simple one, and most doctors issue them all the time anyway. I just like to issue a generic one in case you're in front of a doctor you've never been to and don't have the capacity to sign a new one.
It's great for your pharmacy. It can work for your health insurance. It's great for you when you come to the hospital and it's not your doctor, the hospital needs it. So it's a really good, important form to have.
Very simple, but you never think about it. Then the last will. Now this is a very good tool to have. Most people focus on it, but here's the thing about a last will. It's the last thing they use. First of all, your last will has absolutely no legal authority while you're alive. So there is no executor while you're living. That's something that happens after. Also, the last will does not actually control most of what you own. Anything that is inside of a trust is controlled by that trust. Whatever other rules it may have, it's controlled by the trust. Anything that is co-owned with someone who outlives you is now owned by the person or people who outlived you. And that often is a pitfall when you're putting your kids on your bank account so that they can sign a check. You probably didn't mean them to inherit it and not share it, but that's maybe what happens. Also, beneficiary designations. If you have a specific beneficiary on your IRA, your life insurance, any bank account of any kind can have a beneficiary. Well, that's where it's headed. Your will has no control over it. So it's only after all those things have been assessed. If we don't have a trust on the account, we don't have a co-owner, we don't have a beneficiary, then your last will has something to say about it. But you're going through probate. If you use the will, it is because the probate court has picked it up and read it and is telling that asset what to do next. So it's very good to have because sometimes it makes things easier. Sometimes there's a really good protection to it, and I'll get into that. But that thing is important. It is not critical. It is not what you expect. And there is a legal default to what happens to your assets if you don't have it. So, the one big benefit to this document, from my perspective, from a Medicaid perspective, is if we have two spouses, and let's say one is on Medicaid, which is somewhat common, and the other one isn't, which means the other one is holding all the assets. If that spouse dies first, we cannot have all the assets going back to the Medicaid spouse. We can't have them going anywhere else either, or the state's going to be a little upset about that. So we split the difference. Instead of inheriting the asset from your spouse, you get a trust fund from your spouse. So specifically, this document is a testamentary trust will. It is a last will and testament, it is a trust, and they are combined. They have to be, because if they are, although you will go through probate to actually set up the trust, you will get immediate protection for any asset that travels through that path. Immediate, as if it never existed at all. It doesn't impact eligibility for the surviving spouse, and it doesn't get spent down on them before they can get back on the program. It's a trust fund available to pay for whatever else they need, extra things, maybe a wheelchair van to get to the grandchild's wedding, but it's otherwise safe. And someday we'll go for inheritance to whoever else you wanted. So that's a really, really important tool if we have one spouse on Medicaid. And we often set them up in advance for both spouses. In case one dies unexpectedly, we get protection for whatever they were going to leave to the survivor. And one other thing, there's no look back on that type of a trust. It's the only trust that doesn't have the 5-year look back. Automatic protection the moment the first spouse dies. So unfortunately that's what it takes to get it, but it's very useful to have it.
But it's the only assets that are in that person's name solely. They can't be joined, they can't have payable upon death, it has to be solely.
Unless it's to the trust.
Yes, that person's name.
Exactly. So they didn't go to the spouse, they didn't go anywhere other than the spouse's benefit. They're kind of in a holding spot, which is nice. All right. Other documents that are sometimes appropriate, and this is where we start getting into asset protection. Trusts. There are many types of trusts in this world meant for many different kinds of reasons. Charities, special needs children, but the main types of trusts, if we're talking about planning for care, are going to be irrevocable trusts. Now, a lot of people push back on me as soon as they hear that, and they say, what about revocable? Charlotte, what do you think about revocable trusts?
I don't like revocable because the door is open and you can take it, and so can the state. It doesn't work that way.
If it's yours to give, they can take it from you. So revocable is very useful for younger people who are not worried about that. But when we start talking about asset protection, usually in the face of long-term care costs, although it could just be from any creditor under the sun, we are talking irrevocable. Now, specifically for most people, we are talking about an intentionally defective grantor trust. If you go Google irrevocable trust, you're going to get information about a type of trust that's going to scare you. And basically, it's a completed trust. Your taxes are going to change, your ability to change the trust is gone. It's not that one. If you have more than $15 million, it's that one, and we'll talk about it especially. But otherwise, for most people, if you don't have $15 million, you're not going to trigger an inheritance tax, and therefore this is the one you want. Intentionally defective. Those words indicate that you didn't put all the bricks into that wall, meaning you reserved the right to change it. It's not complete. What you reserved the right to change are the beneficiaries. Now, in my grandmother's case, she had 3 kids, and any one of them would have done anything they could for her. But if she had said, I want all 3 of you to own my home so that it will never be taken from me, she would have lost that bet, because my uncle got sick in his 50s. He would have lost 1/3 of her house to his medical cost. Luckily, we had a trust. And because this happened, we cut him out of it. She did. But basically, his kids got his share instead. So it was flexible. So her journey, and this is the journey for most people, is that she put her house into this trust. She could have put other things in, she just never did. She didn't have much else to give. So she lived her own life with her income and a couple CDs that she had. When she decided to move, she decided to go to some Stafford Ave apartments in Bristol. Her trust sold her house, opened up a couple CDs to invest the money, and she went to those apartments. She used her money to pay for it. She also, along the way, started to need care. When she needed care, she had to pay for that care out of pocket because she had money. Now, if she had had a spouse, if we had done certain other things, which I'll get into, we could have protected some of that money. But bottom line, she did have to pay for some care. And when the money ran out, we used Medicaid to pay for the exact same caregiver she had the day before, because they worked for an agency that could accept private pay or Medicaid, which a lot of them can. So her care quality didn't change. But once she went on to Medicaid, we knew we had money in the trust fund. It wasn't her money, and it could never go directly to pay for her. But we were able to utilize that money through her loved ones to help supplement her rent so that she was able to afford to live in the apartment longer. When her physical needs went up enough, she did actually move to a nursing home because she needed a skilled level of care that we could not get her in her own home. She went to a wonderful facility, and we really appreciated everything that they did. So that was her journey. When she no longer needed anything inside of the trust, we dissolved it and gave it to the people she wanted. So she was still living when they got something. But again, that was never the point of protecting the money. It was to let her money stretch. Now, there are many ways to protect assets without a trust, but planning ahead meant we didn't have to waste money while we scrambled to protect what we could. So it was really nice that she made that trust at least 5 years before she needed a payable level of care, basically. She didn't start her trust until she was 83 years old. Probably should have, but she didn't. But she was bowling at 83. She was healthier than your average bear.
She was.
So most people, I usually say sometime between the age of 65 and 75 is when you really start to need to look at this equation and get things going if you're ever going to. But it's different for everybody because it's based on your health. The only thing we can't control. Anything to add about trust?
That's good.
All right, so I can get well into the mechanics of an intentionally defective grantor trust, but what I'll basically say is your taxes will not change in any way, and there is still flexibility. So when my grandmother sold that house, no capital gains taxes had to be paid. She wouldn't have paid them, therefore her trust didn't have to pay them. And if she had passed away before that occurred, the inheritors still could have been able to sell the house without paying a capital gains tax because of the type of trust this is. What a lot of people do instead of a trust is they transfer the asset to a very trusted person. And it's kind of the same deal where you're giving it away, so it's not yours anymore, therefore it can't be taken from you. You're just reducing risk to a younger person, a trusted person. But like I said, my uncle was trusted. He just couldn't be trusted to stay healthy. That wasn't his fault. So I don't like using people for that reason. And if you're giving people something other than your real estate while you maintain what's called a life use, like if you're giving them stock or money to hold, you're transferring a potential tax liability to them as well. So I like a trust for many reasons, including tax reasons.
We say bad things can happen to good children, good friends, good people. I mean, they can get sick, they can get divorced, they can get in a car accident, hurt somebody, they can die, their spouse can get sick. So all those things can be liabilities and affect the gift that they're holding or the money that they're holding for their parent.
It's not that we don't trust them. We don't trust that things will not happen to them. That's the point.
You just never know.
Right? And God forbid the daughter-in-law doesn't love you, inherits your half of the house. God forbid. Anyway, okay, so barring any questions, I'm going to pivot to the Medicaid program and what that thing really is, because a lot of people are kind of scared off of it and they think, oh, I'll never qualify for it or I never want to be on it. And it is actually a very useful tool for many people who never thought it would be part of their life. Yes?
Is that called Title 19?
Yes. That's
It's
so.
one and the same.
Yes.
It is. Title 19 is Connecticut's section of statutes that talk about it. Medicaid is a whole umbrella of programs. It's many, many things. When I use that word today, what I'm directly talking about is the long-term care program component of Medicaid. Medicaid is historically half and half funded by federal and state dollars. That may be shifting to more of a 25 federal, 75 Connecticut stance since the OBA bill came through in the summer, but along with some other changes that it may be enacting, permanent or not, who knows, because laws are never permanent. But in any event, it's a shared program, and for that reason, it's Medicaid overall, but in Connecticut, it's also Title 19. So, when we talk about long-term care Medicaid, that can pay for caregivers. Now, caregivers do not mean it's giving caregivers, it's paying for the appropriate caregivers you've selected. So if you're using an agency, a lot of them can use Medicaid dollars. Some won't, you just have to be cognizant of that. There are also many different facilities that can accept Medicaid dollars. Now, assisted livings, independent livings, and nursing homes are different things. And in different states, these behave differently. But in Connecticut, the care component of most of these can be paid for by Medicaid dollars. In a nursing home, the entire thing is considered skilled care. So room, board, and care, 100% coverage. Independent living and assisted living, if qualified, is treated as if you're in your own home, which means you have to pay the living cost, the room and board, but they can pay for the care component of it. So independent living, you pay the base rent, they pay the care portion above them, because you're hiring that from out in the community and it comes to you. Assisted living has on-staff caregivers who are trained to work within that facility. So you pay the facility for that portion as well as your room and board. And in pilot program assisted livings, you can use Medicaid dollars to pay for the care portion. Not all assisted livings are on the pilot program. So you have to ask. But in any event, it's otherwise pay or leave if they can't accept those dollars.
And the state pays between $2,500 and $2,900 a month under the pilot program at the assisted livings that participate. There's a potential of 75 assisted livings that can participate, but at this current time, there aren't even 75 assisted livings that are participating. But it's a nice benefit. As long as you have good income, your income can cover the differential between the rent of $8,000 or $5,000 a month. If the state pays $2,700 and you have $3,000 or $4,000 a month, it's sustainable for you to be in the assisted living and be on that program. or using long-term care insurance.
Right.
That's a great benefit.
So there's a lot that it can pay for. If you're at home, whether that's independent living or your actual home or maybe your child's home, they can pay for usually not less than about 3 hours one time a week. Most agencies don't want to send you somebody for less than that, but it can be very minimal if you really aren't ready for much, you want to get comfortable, you don't need that much yet. And up to usually about 8 or 9 hours a day of visiting care or even a live-in. Even at an independent living facility, they can pay for your live-in. So
These aides are called personal care attendants, and they can be a companion, just to be a friend or someone to be there to watch you if you have any issues of safety. You can have someone who can do light housekeeping, they can do laundry, they can do cooking, they can do cleaning. You can have someone who actually is an aide and can help you get dressed, can help you bathe, can help you toileting. Those are the people that actually can physically touch you, but those people that come to the house can start off as a companion and then work their way up to a housekeeper, to your actual aide, a hands-on person, because many people start needing care because their spouse or their family doesn't want to leave them alone because maybe they have some memory issues. You start off with a companion and get that person used to somebody, but the state will pay for all this.
So it's a very high level of help, and frankly speaking, that's often what keeps people out of nursing homes. In my other grandmother's case, she, like most people would say, was very proud, very stubborn, and wouldn't hear it. Wouldn't hear that she needed help, and unfortunately wouldn't even use the stair lift we had put in for her. And unfortunately, the night before my sister's wedding, fell down those stairs and got hurt badly enough that she never could go home. So what I like to encourage families to try to help their loved ones understand is to say just a little bit of help will often help keep you at that level. Never accepting help means you're putting yourself to the risk of a fall or an event where you get so hurt that you cannot get back to where you were, to the independence you were at. So I try to encourage a little so that we never need a lot.
The most dangerous room in your house is your bathroom. Then the second is the stairs going to the basement where the laundry is. And just having a bar in the bathroom or having a bar near the toilet makes a big difference for people to be safe and not fall. I've had people fall and get stuck behind the door in the bathroom and had to have the 911 call. I've had people fall down the basement stairs to do their laundry, and then 3 months later they're gone because they hit their head so bad. No one brings a phone with them, and how are you going to call somebody? Or if you don't have a 911 alert button that actually detects a fall. So it's the buttons you have to push.
What about the accelerometers?
Accelerometers and the watches are the ones that automatically detect the fall.
And there are ones in the pendants as well, but an Apple Watch has an accelerometer.
My husband fell skiing and it said, "Do you need help?" And I'm like, "Oh, did you fall and need help?" I loved it. We were out west and it starts going off and I'm like, "What's the matter down there?"
But it's also a way to encourage using the tool, right?
Yeah.
A young lady like
It
Charlotte
works.
has this thing.
I do.
And you don't feel like you're any different than anybody else, right? You're not wearing a pendant, but we would know. But you never fall when you ski.
Never. He does.
So those are some of the things you can get from this program. We've gone over the 5-year trust, meaning you need to have not owned the asset for 5 years. Now what I want to go into next are some of the last minute strategies to protect what you either didn't give away beforehand or maybe you didn't give anything away at all. Is there anything I didn't touch on before we give away?
Well, the home care program for elders, which is the state of Connecticut, these were the aids that we were paid for. It also pays for incontinence supplies. You can get Meals on Wheels. You can go to adult daycare. There's multiple layers to this home care program. It's not just the aides coming to your house. So there's Meals on Wheels is great. So maybe people aren't cooking, or they can't cook, or they can't shop. Meals on Wheels can be provided under this program. And you have to accept some care to get approved for the program. You can't just say, "Oh, I will take it once in a while." No, you have to have a plan and have it and accept it.
And it doesn't always have to be hourly aids. It could be an adult day program.
Yeah.
Basically what they do is they assess you, they give you a budget, and then you use that money in that budget to pay for what you want. You don't have to use the whole budget. It's not like you're getting a cash payout if you don't. But you can say, you know what, I don't want as much as you're willing to pay for. I will take this, I will start there, and then you can increase as your needs increase or your wishes as you get comfortable. If you need more than they're willing, you get reassessed physically and maybe they give more.
The state has 2 vendors that actually come to the house and do the assessment, and they're the care managers for the program, and they use a universal assessment tool, which is a program that asks multiple questions, which is a 1 to 2 hour assessment. It's very thorough, let's just say that. And based on your answers, a number is assigned, and that's how the budget is determined. But these care managers know the game and really want to keep you home, because that's their goal, is to keep you home and keep you safe. And they understand that you have to start somewhere to be able to be safe. And it really works very well.
All right, so last minute strategies to protect what you still have when you start to need things. Now I will tell you that the lower level of need you have when we begin this journey, the better. But in order to trigger these last minute tools, we do need a level of care that meets that test Charlotte talked about, which means we either have a safety awareness concern, can't be left alone for long stretches, or we miss 3 of the 5 activities of daily living: bathing, dressing, toileting, transferring, feeding yourself. There is a program called state funded that would let you have only 2 of the 5 missed activities. The problem with that program is that it pays for about 4 or 5 hours daily at most, so it's smaller. There's no recoupment, so that's nice. You won't have to pay them back. But if you have given away money within the last 5 years, you're going to run a penalty period. And if you go for the bigger program within the same 5-year window, you're going to run that penalty period again.
And
So
it's also a cost share, 3% cost share,
and you pay something.
and you got to pay for it.
So it's not ideal for that reason. You're probably going to outgrow it, and if you don't stay on it long enough, you're going to get the same pain point again. Why do it twice? So anyway, moving on to the big one. The last minute, basically protection strategies still involve getting money out of your name. It's just that you were allowed to use that money and plan your own life for all those years before this moment. In this order, you will have to get rid of that money if you need the Medicaid program. Spend, gift, annuitize. In that order. Now the goal, if you're the person trying to get on this program, is to get under $1,600 of countable assets. Certain assets don't count, like the house you live in and the car that is taking you to your medical appointments. If you are still driving, you will not qualify for this care. Bottom line, you're not driving it. But you can own it. Plus $1,600 if you are the applicant. Now, having said that, I don't like leaving those assets in the person's name if I can get away with it, only because if you still own them when you pass away, the state will take them to recover their cost. So you can keep it, but no one else is going to ever have it, if that matters to you. So all the other things, like your IRA, your life insurance, the cash value, not the death benefit, your bank accounts of any kind, your second car, that is cash as far as the state is concerned. If you can turn it into money, no matter how painful the tax consequence may be, it is cash. And that includes the 529 that you set up for your grandkids.
And timeshares.
And timeshares. You should, this is my thing, you should never own a 529 after it is not for your own children. If you're going to contribute to that type of fund, which I very much encourage, it should not be in your name, period.
Excuse me, what is the 529?
A college savings
What?
account.
What I had for him.
A college savings account. So
Okay.
it's a tax deferred account where you can invest for a loved one's college future or any education.
Got it.
So it's great.
So that's a
but
529.
a 529.
So as a grandmother, Haley's saying that you don't want to set it up yourself with your grandchild because your name is on it. If you have the power, the right, and the authority to access the money, the state considers it yours if you are the one applying for assistance or if your spouse is applying for
Correct.
assistance. Even though you earmarked it for your grandchild, If you have the power, right, and authority to access it, it's yours.
Right. It will cause you a 10% penalty on every dollar you withdraw, and yet you will be forced to. The same is true for many people who set up a little bank account or a CD and they say, oh, that's my grandchild's, but legally it's not. And so it can be taken from you. So I don't love those ones.
Taken means it has to be cashed in and used and spent,
Right.
because that's the number one thing is to spend.
Right. Yeah, so that's the misnomer, and I'll use these words, and I apologize. It's never that they take it from you. It's that the state, will refuse to pay for the care that you or your spouse needs until you spend your money on it first. So it will be gone one way or the other.
The state does not take your house, the state does not take your money, the state does not take your car, it doesn't take your life insurance, it doesn't pay for care if you have assets to pay for yourself.
They force you to do that. So if you don't want to do that, spend, gift, annuitize. Now, spending is everyone's least favorite because then the money's gone, but it is actually option number one because you're going to spend that money strategically on things you actually wanted to spend your money on, like updating the bathroom so it's safe, paying the debt like your mortgage that you've been meaning to pay if you could, buying the new car if you actually need one. It's a depreciating asset, so that's not a great investment, but if you needed one, and for sure, prepaying both spouses' funerals. It's a cost someone will have someday. Pay for it. If it's pay for care or pay for a funeral that someone's gonna have to pay for anyway, do that. Once you get past spending money on things that you actually need, now we get to, can I still give it away? Now, gifting rules have a few exceptions to that, but the whole point is if the gift occurred within 5 years of you applying for this money for Medicaid, they see it. That is what the look back is. They are looking at your financial records. If the gift was to your spouse, they don't care about it. I don't care how much.
How much?
Don't care.
No, I mean,
You can give
for
anything
example,
to your spouse.
say I wanted to give $10,000.
Okay,
Say I wanted to give $100.
sure.
Does the state care about the 100, or do they say?
They don't care about the amount,
Oh.
as so much as who.
Who are you giving this to?
So if, let's say you gave it to your grandchild, they care. They care about every penny. They tend to look the other way at things that are under $5,000, but they do not have to legally. So gift it. If you gave it to a non-excluded person, someone who is not your spouse, not your legally blind or disabled child, not a caregiver child, and I'll define what that truly means, but someone who they care that you gave it to them, because that's not fair. They didn't do anything for you, therefore why should they just get a free handout? The state will say for every $15,526 you gave that person, they will.
Yes, that's really
$15,526.
That's the average cost of care in the state of Connecticut for a long time.
That's what they think.
Oh.
They kind of take an average between nursing homes and home care. A live-in home care is going to cost you about $10,000 a month. A nursing home in Connecticut will be somewhere between $16,000 and $20,000 per month. So the average cost of full care, $15,526 per month.
Changes every July, and it goes up every July.
Yep.
Couple $100.
So they have their number, but this is useful. Let's say that you have $100,000 and you don't want to keep it. Maybe because you don't have a spouse you can give it to. Maybe because we know both spouses are going to need care pretty soon, so we want to plan ahead. You give it to your trusted child, you give it to your trusted grandchild. It makes no difference. You gave it away, you could have spent it on your own care. For $100,000, that's about 7 months. So,
What do you mean?
so
Oh,
you make the gift,
yeah.
and as soon as possible, you tell the state of Connecticut what you did by applying for Medicaid. So you show them all your records. Here's what I did. I'm sorry. I want your help.
Accounts?
You give them
You
the
give-
5
you give
years
them
of
your bank
records, you can
records.
apply for assistance, and you meet the financial need, and you meet the physical need. You can't apply for assistance unless you
Right.
need you need help.
Right, but you show them I don't have money left and I need help. And they say, well, that's nice. You had $100,000. No, So for 7 months, go ahead and fend for yourself. We're not gonna help you yet. You should have been able to do it yourself. We're not gonna help you yet. Now the trick is, if your care does not cost $15,526 out of pocket, then what's gonna happen is, you make the gift, you get into this timeout period where you have to fend for yourself. Your child pays for the care you need with the money you gave them. But it doesn't cost all the money you gave them, which means at the end of that timeline, you can access Medicaid to start paying for care, and they can pocket the rest for your future needs that this program won't cover. So it's a write-off. It's a way to save some when you can't save all.
So you give the kid $100,000, and the kid can use it for you.
Right. You tell the state, I don't have it anymore.
The state doesn't care.
Right. Because if you had kept it, the state would have said, spend $100,000. But if you give it away,
You're in luck.
your kid uses what you need in those months and can pocket the balance.
But
So
you
this
have
is-
to functionally qualify. Everything else has to work.
It's not her, it's my dad.
Yeah, but
Right.
it depends on where
So
he is.
the only
to need
reason-
the care.
He's
So-
in memory care.
So your father can gift anything to your mother, and she can effectively keep it. I'm gonna get into the rules about how that really works, but she can just keep it. But what if the second spouse gets sick? Now we need to get the $100,000 out of the marriage entirely. And if when your father started needing care, it was not that expensive, what we could have done is get the money out of the marriage to plan ahead for that second spouse. So we're already done, good to go, even if she starts to need care later. So depending on either spouse's level of need at the time and comfort level in giving the money away at all, that's sometimes a tool we use in advance, even though we don't need it right now. We're planning ahead for the second one.
That's interesting.
But the assisted living that you're at has to be able to accept the pilot program. That's the issue.
Right. If you are not living somewhere that can accept these dollars, you cannot get qualified for this program.
This is specifically a pilot program.
Right.
For an assisted, if it's that,
If it's an
if your
assisted-
loved one is in an assisted living facility, yes.
So gifting is sometimes a tool. There are exceptions to gifting. Blanket exception, anything at any time can be given to a spouse. Anything at any time can be given to a legally blind or disabled child. Your child. Not your grandchild, not your stepchild. Your child. Biological or adopted. Or to a caregiver child. Now, there are kind of two very similar rules called caregiver child and other valuable consideration. And the difference basically breaks down to who provided your care and what are you trying to give them, basically.
You have to live with your parent in your parent's home and provide 2 years of care. And without the care that you gave them, they couldn't have lived in that house and it wouldn't have been a good environment. They needed that level of care. The parent can give them their house. So that's called caretaker child. They can only get the house. They had to live in the parent's home, not the parent living in the kid's home. The kid has to live in the parent, it has to be 2 years. And you have to have medical records to state that if it wasn't for this child living in the house with the parent and what care they needed. So we have to look at their medical records. It has to have a diagnosis that needed that level of
You
care.
have to show you moved in, your driver's license changed, your voter registration changed, your taxpayer basis changed. Like, show you lived
You
there.
have to live there for a minimum of 2 years.
Now, there is a cap on the value of the home at $1 million. Not a problem for most people, just so you know. But
The
other valuable consideration isn't the house. Basically, you're given the write-off amount, which means at least 2 years of service, but for every month after that, including those full 24 months, you can get $15,526. So you start at something like $350,000 just for the first 2 years, if your parent even has that to give. And then another $15,526 for every single successful month after that you can prove.
That's much more difficult. The state of Connecticut is very strict on that.
Right.
They're
But
just
it's
very strict.
the spouse is never going to be that person. This is the only person that signed up for it, sickness and in health. They didn't sign up to be the caregiver. They signed up to be the person making sure you have the care you need, but still they cannot be paid for being your caregiver, not your spouse.
The state of Connecticut also, under the Adult Family Living Program, can pay children and grandchildren, nieces and nephews, but not a spouse, to provide care for you. There's a stipend program, which means it's non-taxable income if you qualify living in the house with that person. The state will also give you a 13-hour-a-week respite, so you're not there every single minute of the day. But the state, if you want your daughter or son to live in the house and provide care, they have to live in the house again with you. You hear those ads on the television or the radio, but they're actually living in the house with that person. And the state of Connecticut is going to check on that.
Now remember, all of this only applies to gifts made within the 5-year window, and there is no proration. It either happened within the window or it did not. I don't care if it was year 1 or year 4. But if the gift was made before that window, well, frankly speaking, they don't see it, so it doesn't count no matter who it went to or how much it was. Now, the tax purpose of this. There is a tax law that has nothing to do with Medicaid law. And it says that for every $19,000 you give away to every given person on this earth, if you choose, you don't have to report that you gave a gift at all. But let's say you give $20,000 to one person. You have to report that you gave $1,000. You are not taxed, you just have to report it. Over your lifetime, all of those reports of excessive giving, in combination with your final estate when you die, is totaled up. And current federal law, which Connecticut mimics, says you have to have given more than $15 million of countable amounts before you trigger a tax. So that's the tax law. Medicaid says to heck with that. Every penny you give could be counted. So don't think you're getting away with something there. There's no freebie unless it's a person who earned a freebie. So that is gifting. The third and not exactly final, but last big option for protecting things is something called a SPIA, S-P-I-A, which is a Medicaid annuity. I don't care what annuity you have right now. If you're not on Medicaid, it's not that one. A Medicaid annuity says that whatever you put into it is going to pay the owner back at a set amount, same amount, every month until completion. No more, no less. It's stuck. Usually we have the healthy spouse buy this so that the income stream doesn't count for Medicaid purposes. And you can pocket it and keep it because the state does not look at that healthy spouse after the application is complete. If they personally need Medicaid later, that's a different story. But basically the money can come back to them, they can pile it up and keep it. However, the state must be named as the primary beneficiary of this annuity. So, if the healthy spouse does not outlive their annuity, and there's something still in it when they die, the state is going to recover their expenses. They don't just get the whole thing, but they do get their cost back, which usually adds up to the whole thing, and maybe even more, but they're not getting the more, they just get what's still in the account. So it's not ideal because it's kind of stuck there, there's nothing else we can do with it, especially if the healthy spouse gets sick. But hey, if they die 1 month in, well, the state gets 1 month of cost, but at least they don't get their balance of the account. So yeah, in that order. There are other tricks we can play, smaller things like a pooled trust, where you can stuff money in and use it later, and it doesn't count as if you gave it away at all. The problem with that is that it's use or lose. The state or Plan of Connecticut will keep the balance when you die. So smaller things like that. But those are kind of the main tricks that we use.
And I say the most important thing is to stay healthy. And I tell all my clients about the 3 or 5 M's. Move every day. Mingle with other people. Manage your own health. Mind your own business. And meditate. Those are the 5 things. Move, mingle, manage, mind your own business, and meditate. Next time I'll see you, I'm going to ask you those 5 things.
That's fantastic, ladies. Thank you so much. Valuable, insightful information. I learn something every time I see the two of you. Thanks so very much. And our guests can stay afterwards for questions and things like that, but we're gonna wrap this beautiful presentation up. We'll see you next time. Thanks so much, ladies. Take care.